Kids will be kids, even if that means you're a 36-year-old man-child. Today on rLounge, didn't your parents teach you any manners? Up first, some parents miss the memo on pool party etiquette. Am I the a-hole for jumping out of the way when my niece and nephew tried to push me into the pool, resulting in them falling in? My folks decided to host a barbecue because I guess that's what older people do. I declined because I really don't like my two sisters, their husbands, or their kids. Wife and I are child-free. Mom then pressured the wife. Long story short, we went. By the time we arrived, there were about 20 people there. My sister and their husbands were already solidly buzzed. Drunk, really. My mom was spending 100% of her time trying to keep the nieces and nephews, ages 7 to 11, more or less under control. My dad had strategically retreated to the whirlpool part of the pool with small cooler full of beers. Wife and I made small talk with miscellaneous people, ate food, and had a frozen margarita. Sisters, brother-in-laws took turns criticizing us for being late, not being in our swimsuits, and screwing up the vibe. Whatever. Typical suburban summer get-together. About 45 minutes in, two of the kids ran at one of the neighbor guests who was standing next to the pool and pushed her in. She was at the pool steps, stumbled in, but didn't fall, so only got half wet. She was clearly very unhappy about it, but she didn't make a scene. Just went over to where the parents were, grabbed their towels, dried herself off, and left. Sisters and brother-in-laws thought it was all great fun. A bit later, I was standing a few feet away from the pool chatting away with someone. I saw three of the kids running full tilt at me from the corner of my eye. Obviously, I was next. Not that it's terribly difficult to outwit young kids, but I jumped out of their way at the last second. All three of them ran straight into the pool at full speed. Most of the other guests, including my wife and me, started laughing, but their moms, who as I mentioned were pretty crap-faced, absolutely freaked out. Apparently two of the kids couldn't swim, even though they were in swimsuits. Since I wasn't in swim gear, I stepped back from the pool and let other people fish the kids out. The kids were bawling their heads off like they'd lost a limb. At that point, all hell broke loose. The four drunk parents were yelling at everyone in general and me in particular for nearly letting their kids drown, and also because two of the kids had been videoing the trick using their parents' iPhones, which are now at the bottom of the pool. One of my brother-in-laws got into the pool to try to retrieve the phones, but his BMI and blood alcohol content made that impossible. No one else volunteered to help. Unsurprising given that my sisters were still complaining at everyone. I told my sisters it was their job to watch their kids, and that if anything had happened to them, it would have been their responsibility, not mine. There were some pretty strong words on both sides. Wife and I left after the other brother-in-law fell over and face-planted while yelling at us. Now they're saying I should have let the little craps knock me into the pool and have their fun, and ruin my phone. So, am I the a-hole? Side note, Dad, of course, never got out of the whirlpool. Time for judgment from the community. First up, not the a-hole. The kids, F around and find out. If the parents' phones got ruined in the process, that's on them for not controlling their little hellions. I can see why you avoid family get-togethers. Hopefully, next time, your wife won't allow herself to be guilted into making you go. DOP replies, that's probably the one positive thing that will come out of this. Wife is much more tolerant and forgiving than I am towards my siblings, but based on what she was saying on the way home, I think she's had it with them as well. Next judgment says, maybe you and your wife can just have your dad over to your place next time. I'd party with him 8 days a week. Next judger chimes in, not the a-hole. Talk about raising your kids to be disrespectful a-holes and being irresponsible parents. What kind of parent gets crap-faced when their children are playing in and around an effing pool, especially when they know that their kids can't effing swim? Next judgment, not the a-hole. The parents knew their kids could not swim and took them somewhere with deep water and were not watching their kids. Another judgment, absolutely not the a-hole. Their parents are. You did not mention the ages of the children, but they certainly got a dose of their own medicine. The parents should have dealt with their children when they pushed the neighbor in the pool. It sounds like your sisters and brother-in-laws are lousy, lazy parents. No reasonable person would expect you to let the kids push you in when you were fully clothed. DOP replies, the kids are fine. By the time I left, they were inside watching TV. I think they're 7, 9, 10, 10, and 11. It was the middle three who played kamikaze with me. I'm guessing the 11-year-old egged them on. She's usually the ringleader. You're absolutely not the a-hole here. And you're right. When you have your children playing, especially around a pool, and you know your kids can't swim, it's your job to be watching that. And it's extremely irresponsible for parents to be intoxicated like that in such an environment where the children can easily be harmed. All it takes is a second, and if they want to drink like that, they should have made an arrangement between the two parents of who would be the sober one. Next up, girl interrupted, an 18-year-old that's just looking to be heard. Am I the a-hole for taking in my problem cousin and canceling family events? Me, male 30, and wife, female 27, own a sizable farm that is usually the nexus of family events. 5 bedrooms, 3 baths, 300 acres, and electrical hookups for 4 campers so the whole clan can come stay for extended visits in the summer. We built it that way deliberately. My cousin Bill, male early 50s, has a daughter, Alice, female 18, from his first marriage. His first wife was an immigrant with no family in our country and no contact with any family in her home country. She passed away when Alice was 2, and Bill remarried Tanya, female early 50s, 6 months later. They have since had 3 kids, male 14, male 12, female 8. Alice is a brat. Everything in their house revolves around either the boys, their 2 oldest together, or their princess, their daughter together. And Alice is left behind. She doesn't get to go on family trips. They wouldn't pay for extracurricular stuff. She couldn't take elective classes that had extra fees, etc. I'm not a smart man, but I can recognize a kid that's hurting inside and being neglected. She's like Mr. Hyde with them and Dr. Jekyll elsewhere. For the last 4 summers, she's been coming to work on my farm because her parents don't want her around over the summer break. She turned 18 recently, and leading up to her birthday, her dad was very adamant that she was being kicked out of the house when she turned 18 because it'll teach her responsibility. We, wife Alice and I, discussed it, and early on her birthday, we pulled up with my truck and packed her stuff up. We only packed things she purchased herself or things that were given to her by another person. My boss got creative with her benefits provider so we can get Alice on my medical benefits until she finishes university. She starts in a few weeks. So she's able to go to therapy. He reads this subreddit a lot, so even though this is a throwaway, I know you'll read this, Chief. Thank you. And she's able to get back into sports while still saving her money. This is where it all comes apart. Bill and Tanya are pissed that we took her in and refused to come to family events. Part of the family refuses to attend as well because I'm undermining Bill and Tanya. I'll understand when I have kids. After they refused to attend events, a few others said that with gas being so expensive and not everyone attending, they'd skip as well. My answer of, okie dokie, come if you want and don't if you don't, further upset people who thought I should have tried harder to get people to come, so now we're down to about 1/4 of the family in attendance for events. My aunt suggested that we have Alice over on weekends and that she stays in a dorm during the week to smooth things over. I think that's dumb, but I'm dumb and stubborn. My wife thinks it's dumb, and she's really smart, but also very much attached to the situation. Alice said she'd rather stay with us, but would try the dorms to help make peace. Am I the a-hole for not going with the dorm suggestion to keep the peace? Edit for info. I called Alice a brat, and my original post was way past the character limit, but in some of the stuff that got pared down, I explained it more. Typical teenage acting out, but cranked up. Slamming doors, screaming matches with her stepmom, swearing, probably 3 or 4 big blowouts a week, and sometimes over some pretty disproportionately small stuff. I've watched her grow, and the acting out definitely came after the exclusion from family stuff. Edit 2. Thank you, everyone. Gonna keep on keeping on. Bit of a mini update. I ripped the band-aid off with the ol' fam jam and told them that fewer mouths to feed isn't the punishment that they thought it was. Anyone else who was coming is still welcome, and I'd have the extra cash from not feeding so many people to help the folks concerned about gas prices make it out if they so chose. I'm in like 4 different family group chats and they're all lighting up. I'm going to turn my phone on silent for a while and let the sparks fly. I'll check in on the post in a while, and if anything noteworthy comes up and it's interesting, I'll give you all an update in the future. Edit 3. Alrighty, here's the update on the situation and a little background info for some consistent topics in the comments. So, my family likes to gossip and they're dang efficient at it. If your truck breaks down with only you in it 5 miles from home, word has reached every aunt and cousin before you're in your door. When I put the word out, it traveled fast. This morning, I've been called all the names in the book and some new ones, so there may be a revised and updated edition of said book coming out. I've been told I'm a good guy, a bad guy, I'm stupid, I'm smart, I'm short-sighted, I'm thinking ahead. It's been neat. Long story short, I've got about a dozen relatives telling me thanks, and they'll buy me a pint next time they're out. And about triple that, who never want to speak to me again. So those are both significant victories. Now, nobody here really cares about me. We're all about Team Alice here. She's a Redditor apparently, and came across the post independently of me showing her. There were tears, born of stress and relief, I think, and she's going to be staying here with us until she's ready to start the next chapter of her life, whatever and whenever that might be. She's got classes picked. Her college picks first-year classes for you, for the most part, so it was a couple of electives, and is looking into the women's rec league for a hockey team when the season starts, so she's all set on that front. Regarding feeding everyone and paying for gas, without going into details, I was very fortunate as a young man to be working very, very hard at a job I was woefully underqualified for, while a very wealthy person was on site. Basically, right place, right time, and the chief took me in and mentored me. We have made a lot of money on a business venture together in addition to me working for him, and since then I haven't exactly had FU money, but enough that I was able to buy the property I live on outright and build my home here with my wife, who also makes good money. Family is important to both of us, and neither of our sides of the family tree have much for money, so we've done our best to make sure money isn't a barrier to getting together and seeing one another. Now the big news. Tanya drove down to my house this morning. Bill and I had some very angry words when he drove down last night after I chose the nuclear option in the family group chats, so she actually waved a white flag from her car when she pulled up. I shooed the dogs and alpaca away and went out to talk to her, brought her out a muffin, and we had a bit of a chat. Allegedly, Bill was threatening to kick Alice out to scare her straight, and that they weren't actually going to kick her out, and they were caught off guard when we showed up on the morning of her birthday. I told her that she was missing the point, and that I'm not sure I could use small enough words or short enough sentences to explain it to her if she thought that was the only problem. She cried, she peeled out of my driveway at Mach 7, and it's been radio silent, which I'm currently enjoying. Thanks everyone for the support. I'm not really a Reddit guy, so I don't imagine I'll be back, but for my brief stay here, you definitely don't live up to the negative reputation the rest of the internet has given your site. You're a good bunch. Keep your sticks on the ice. Taking care of Alice is a priority. She's not in a position to be advocating for herself right now, and if you're noticing signs of neglect, chances are other people have too, and you're the only one who's not afraid to step up to the plate. It sounds like your brother just wanted to ship his daughter off instead of taking care of whatever the issue was between them. That's not parenting. If they're not careful, they'll lose all their children. 1 year update. So, about a year ago, my 31 male cousin, Alice, female 19, moved in with my wife, female 28, on her 18th birthday, after being told she needed to move out on said birthday from her parents, early mid-50s, I don't care enough to do the math, house by said parents. I'm here with an update at her suggestion. The good. A year later, she's a year into an engineering degree. She's been playing lots of hockey, raised a couple of steers all on her own, and at her therapist's recommendation, she's down to monthly sessions after a brief stop at bi-weekly after starting with weekly. She's the same sweet kid, but without the extra unneeded stress of being treated like an also-ran alongside her younger siblings. The bad. Her dad showed up about a month after my original post, and there was a confrontation of sorts that ended with a peace bond being issued with restrictions on how Bill and Tanya could contact Alice, myself, my missus, and a couple other family members that got involved. After the 6 months required by the peace bond, Tanya started getting back up to her old tricks, but Bill seems to have smartened up a bit. The peace bond meant she has had limited contact with her siblings, which has been tough. The oldest, 15 male, started out pretty hostile, but some of the other cousins filled him in on what was going on. I got blamed for his sudden shift in attitude because we've established that I am just the worst with jazz hands and everything. The silly, gossipy family mellowed out when they realized that the literal gravy train wasn't going to stop at the station for them. Thanksgiving last year was 26 people compared to the 60 plus that came the last year I threw it prior to COVID restrictions. Easter this year was back up to an even 40, so we're probably going to plateau a little short of the old numbers. As for resolution to the problem, Bill has been texting Alice every couple of days to check in. They've gone for coffee a few times after the peace bond expired. I'd go to his funeral, but not his birthday party, were Alice's words when I asked her about where they're at. I'm hoping time can heal that wound, but she's been really good at setting boundaries. To quote one of the great warrior poets of our time, John Cougar Mellencamp, life goes on. I'll answer questions if it's allowed. Otherwise, here's some closure, guys. Our first response says, "Well done, sir. Alice needed someone to stick up for her, and glad you haven't backed down." Our next commenter offers, "And she's studying engineering. Once she starts earning a good salary, I predict the dad will want to be even closer." The next person chimes in, I'd go to his funeral, but not to his birthday party. Please tell Alice I'm totally stealing this. Pure gold. Best wishes to you, your wife, and Alice. What a wonderful family you are. And our last opinion goes something like this. These are the stories that restore my faith in humanity. You and your wife are seriously good people and should not have had to endure the criticism from the extended family. As someone else pointed out on the other post, Bill and Tanya just didn't want their mistreatment of Alice to be exposed by her behaving after being treated like an actual human being. Alice is going to triumph over this because of you. The world is a better place with you in it. I think the comments are right. Bill and Tanya definitely didn't want their dirty laundry and how they were treating Alice to go public. All it takes is one person to step up. So glad that Alice has people like you and your wife in her life to see and hear her. And now look at her. She's absolutely flourishing. Thank you for stepping up and being the parents that she needed. They're perfect role models. What would you do if you were OP? Would you have taken Alice in too? Next up, somebody get this man a high chair. Am I the a-hole for hiding vegetables in my boyfriend's food? Throw away because he spends a lot of time on Reddit. This is the most ridiculous argument I've had with a grown man. I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend, 36 male, for a year, and we moved in together about 4 months ago. One of the first things I noticed about my boyfriend was that he never really ate vegetables. He would sometimes eat them if we were out at a restaurant and they came as part of his meal, but he never ate them when I cooked for him. Originally, I thought that maybe my cooking was the problem, so I asked him if he enjoyed my food, and he told me he loves my cooking. On nights I didn't cook for him, he ate exclusively frozen foods and never ate the vegetables in those either. Naturally, he has some health issues, vitamin deficiencies, etc. He had phrased it to me as if he was somehow just genetically unlucky. I believed it for a while because I don't know how that stuff works, but eventually it became clear to me it's because he voluntarily eats a vegetable like once a month. 6 months ago, I started hiding vegetables in my cooking. If I was making pasta, I'd put the vegetables in I'd usually put in for myself, then take half out and blend it so he wouldn't notice the vegetable chunks, and then tell him I'd just scooped the veg out of his portion. This happens more often now we live together because I do all of the cooking. He's been telling me a lot lately he's been feeling a lot better the past few months and has even had his doctor reduce the dosage of some of his medications, and he hasn't had to take his multivitamin in weeks. I kept my mouth shut because I'm just glad he's feeling better, and it really does me no harm to hide the veg in his food. Yesterday, I was making one of our regular pasta meals. It's one that's very easy to hide at least 4 veggies in, and I was about to blend my boyfriend's portion when the blender died mid-blend. I had to serve it in all its veg chunk glory. My boyfriend refused to eat the vegetables, but when he tasted the sauce, he said it's weird how it tastes the exact same even though this one has veg in it. So I confessed. He screamed at me and called me a controlling witch, and said that it's none of my business if he thinks vegetables don't do anything. I pointed out he said he felt better. He said his health was none of my business and that I'm controlling, judgy a-hole, and stormed out of our apartment to stay with his sister. His sister texted me to say he's fine, but she agrees with him. My friends agree it's ridiculous that he didn't eat vegetables, but agree I'm being an a-hole. Am I the a-hole? Let's check in with the community for some judgments. First up, not the a-hole. This is a grown man 8 years older than you. If he has a problem with your cooking, let him make his own food. He's already coddled by his sister and doesn't or shouldn't need to be by you. Next thought, sorry, but he should rightfully go on the reject pile for OP and every other woman. A man who cannot be an adult for himself and eat things that do him good is a self-sabotaging and her-sabotaging a-hole unfit for partnership. I don't know why some people act like self-harm is some sort of virtue. It is not. It is stupidity and stubbornness in all of its glory, and this was but one symptom of a much bigger problem. He is unable to adapt and evolve as a human. He is unable to adult himself and learn new things. He is unable to take responsibility for his own health or his own cooking. He ate junk and thinks that is somehow as it should be. Anyone dating such a person should save themselves years of heartbreak and move on. Another thought, no, you're not the a-hole in any way, and I don't care what anyone says. I admittedly was the same way, till my girlfriend kinda got me to start. I felt much better afterwards and just, yeah, minus squash. I will straight up bite someone over having to eat that nasty hell food. If he's gonna be a crybaby about it, he can cook his food and you can cook yours. That way he can control what he's putting in his body, as another comment said. And finally, you would be the a-hole if you waste more time on this guy, not the a-hole. The comments are exactly right. If he's going to complain about his food and refuse to eat it, then he can cook for himself. That's childish behavior. At the same time, you are hiding the fact that you are blending up the food, so I can understand how that is lying by omission. But that doesn't make you the a-hole. You're just looking out for his well-being. But c'est la vie. Looks like the man ran right to his security blanket of a sister. Thank you for joining us today on rLounge. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, please, we want to hear it. Until next time.